Good morning, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So I was just doing some research about the mill closures that are taking place here in Oregon due to the log prices that have recently changed. And as I was going through these articles, I was looking at some steel mill production that is now shutting down here in the United States. And it was a very interesting story as I was reading through some of these articles. Now, I just take it back a little ways to think about the economic forces that are at play, but then I see the political environment that is now at play that these people are pointing at, right? So now I'm going to read this from Cantillon's essay. Now, you remember, this is Cantillon's essay from like hundreds of years ago, right? And what he has to say is very prudent to what the topic is that we are going to be discussing in this video. Because you think about the foreign production and the domestic manufacturers. Okay, now let me read this. Increases in the supply of money causes prices to rise. This in turn puts pressure on domestic producers and increases imports. This result is that the balance of trade is reduced and eventually is negative. Right? The balance of trade is reduced. Like if it was perfectly balanced, we bring in just as much as we export, right? We import as much as we export, that's balance, right? If it goes negative, right, the result is that the balance of trade is reduced and eventually is negative. This is Cantillon's price specie flow mechanism, which demonstrates the reason for the tendencies for equilibrium in international monetary flows. The balance of trade can result in economic power, but this also causes the economy to lapse into luxuries and decline. Now, this is the moment that we're in, is the lapse into luxuries and eventual decline. Now, this is the problem that the steel mill operation is having, right? They're accusing the politicians of not doing it right. This is what's happening. They're accusing the politicians of not doing it right. So what's right? The politicians are going to go and put some tariffs on these foreign producers. Them damn foreign producers bringing in cheap steel into the United States. How dare they? Right? This is that, and I mean, totally get it, right? We got to protect these American steel jobs. Makes sense, right? This is what we got to do. Now, let's think about this for just a second, because now we have tariffs put on foreign production that's coming into the United States. It keeps the the domestic manufacturer elevated with its prices. Now, what happens to the people who are now producing here in the United States, who need to buy that steel to make their products, to be competitive with the world? They have to buy expensive American steel because it has this tariffs on it, right? So now, what happens if you were to remove those tariffs? Cheap steel comes into the United States. The domestic manufacturers who are buying that cheap steel can make their product more competitive, and now they can export ever more products to the rest of the world. But if they have that tariffs, well, no, that ain't going to work, right? Because now we have expensive steel made here in the United States, and we can't bring in the foreign production because it has this high tariffs on it. You're hurting the domestic manufacturers who are buying that steel. Well, I got an idea. Maybe we could subsidize them. You see the problem that's happening here? So now you got political environment that only subsidizes the expensive steel that now has the tariffs upon it, just so you can keep the domestic manufacturers here in the United States alive. It doesn't work like that. See, the United Steel Manufacturer goes to I believe the ITC, the International Trade Commission, saying, hey, what the hell? Put this tariff on them, right? And they say, no, that foreign production, it's not hurting you, right? And they say, how could it possibly not hurt us? It's foreign competition that's coming in extremely cheap. We can't compete with it. And they're saying, yeah, I guess. And I have to almost agree with them. And I know that sucks to say, because intuitively saying it doesn't make sense. But when you say, hey, you guys, when you were rocking it and making a lot of money and selling that steel all over the world because we were the best manufacturers in the entire world of it, and everybody loved it, and we were using a lot of it, and it seemed like it was never ending, and you guys were rolling in it, right? All of a sudden, you're in the lapse of luxuries. And eventually, you'll fall into decline. And it's the same story that was told hundreds of years ago, and to think that it can be any different is wrong. See, this is the reason why most people are just missing it. They want to blame it on that political environment, right? Which is it totally makes sense, right? And you can have an impact. In fact, you can have an impact using the political environment to push against these natural economic forces that are going to be at play, and you could probably do it for a very long time, right? But it doesn't take away from the idea that the economic forces are still there. And this is the reason why they are having such issues. And you're never going to be competitive. That was it. You had your shot. The only way to be competitive again is to lose the idea of luxuries, to lower your standard of living, to work harder for less, right? Put in more hours and get paid less and produce higher quality products so that you can remain competitive against the other manufacturers of the world. And it's going to be very difficult to do, because the longer that this goes on, the better they get at their products. And everybody faces this. This is not something that is unique to the United States. China's facing it right now. Think about the domestic manufacturers of China leaving China, moving to Mexico, moving to Malaysia, moving to Vietnam, right? These guys are leaving the more expensive area of manufacturing due to the rise in the standard of living. You can't stop this from happening. This is going to be something that is going to continue on forever, and it's going to be cyclical like that. Now, you can, again, interact with it using the political environment, and it's obvious that it can happen, but it doesn't stop the economic forces from continuing in the background. And this is why it's going to be ever increasingly more difficult for the United States steel manufacturers to continue to be competitive. Right? And I just think about that. It was just like, so you're going to, put the tariffs on these foreign producers, and then what happens to the domestic producers who are buying that steel? They get damaged. And so on down the line it goes. So this is something that we're going to discuss here in a live stream in just a few minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this live stream, or upload this video, and then I'm going to start a live stream so we can discuss this particular topic. I feel that a lot of times people will see a 2-hour video and might be intimidated by that and not want to watch it, when a few minutes, a 10-minute video is something that's quicker and easier to digest on a particular topic like this. But I know this is going to be something that people are going to have a lot of questions over, and I want to start a live stream so that, those who have those questions can then, maybe get a response not only from me, but from the community as well. I'm going to keep this one a public one, but there will be some private live streams coming in the future here as we discuss, deeper topics into stuff like this, like the Cantillon effect. But I believe that right now, this is probably something that is needing to be discussed and shared and understood, right? Because what we're going to end up finding is that people are going to end up voting for politicians who say that they can fix this. And that is, it's going to be, you're going to have to know that they can't. There is nobody out there who can fix this. Can we put pressures on it to maybe make the environment look more appealing? Sure, we can do that, but we can't stop these economic forces, and to pretend that they are not there is not going to work. So we have to understand this truly, deeply, and to the point that it is internalized, so that when the political environment does come up, we'll at least know how to discuss it in a way that we understand that tariffs aren't going to necessarily be everlasting and working in the way that people would appreciate, all right? Because I don't think everybody would. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Come back for the live stream here in just a few minutes. Uneducated Economist, you let me know.